Can you hear me okay?
It's
Uh,
the Sig Show.
Can you hear
It's
me
the
okay?
Sig Show.
it's
It's the Sig Show.
I'm not good. I'm great. Look at you, man. I'm so
it's
excited you got
snowing on
up.
spring break. There's
Like,
nothing great about that.
you're on spring break and you got up to sit down with me. That's exciting.
Uh, I was just living for the moment.
Well, it's a wonderful moment we're in. That's for sure. That's for sure. So, what's been going on?
Not a lot.
I was sitting down, just kind of prepping for this, and I was thinking about when I met you. I was just getting into my teaching career, and if you want to call it a career, can you really count 9 years as a career? I don't know if you can count it, but and you were
It was a
teaching.
chapter.
It was a
It was a
chapter. That's a
chapter.
great place. That's a
There
great
you go.
place to live in there. But I was just starting out, and you were teaching music over at Montpelier, and I came in to sub for you one day,
Oh God.
and I remember, like, I would ask teachers, I would tell the principals, hey, make sure they leave me an actual lesson plan, not a sub lesson plan, because even if I screw it up, I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to get better, and you did that for me, and I appreciate it. And there were a few other teachers that did as well, and it always mattered to me. So just want to throw that out there.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
I always do that, then get irritated when people don't follow my plans because I made the effort.
I mean, there
It's
has
like,
to
come on.
be there has to be this um, expectation of, okay, it is what it is. They're going to,
Right.
they're going to do what they can, and we're so strapped for subs anyway that
Oh yeah.
uh, our sub expectation has to be that nobody died.
It has to be. Yeah, I was going to say almost non-existent, honestly.
So hey, I want to get you on here and talk to you about esports, but I want to get a little bit about your background too. I don't want to just jump right in. I want to find out a little bit about Jen Gallatin and how you end up being the esports guru.
Yeah.
As
No. 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 No.
you don't
There's no
like the
guru
guru?
there.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Let's. So how's that work? How do you go from music teacher to
Um.
being the esports coordinator? And you do a lot of other things. You've got a
I.
mixed bag.
I'm like a Swiss Army G, is what I call it.
You really are.
No, I started teaching computers about 26 years ago, along with the music, and decided that I liked doing that much better than begging people to practice instruments so I could have a decent performance. And one thing led to another, and then I ended up getting my master's in curriculum with that ed tech emphasis.
Okay.
And just it was just like one thing led to another, and then a few years ago, our athletic department was contacted by an esports entity, and it got passed to me, and the rest is kind of history.
There's a couple of different esports entities out there. I'm having some mic issues. I feel like I don't. Am I coming through clear?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I got you good.
Okay.
So,
There's a couple of different esports entities out there. One of them is the Esports Indiana Network or Indiana Esports Network.
yes, IEN. Yes.
Um, and there's a couple others. They're not coming to my brain right now. Which organization does Blackford play out of?
We are with IEN now. I'm not sure about numbers, but if I had to guess, I would probably say that's the largest in Indiana. We started out with, I can't even remember what we started with. They were the company that contacted our athletic department, and that's where we started. But the catch was, them, like so many others, was a pay to play entity. So unless, I'm trying to think, Rocket League was free, and that may have been all, we had to pay like $45 per seat for the kids to participate. So we were only with them for one season before we did switch over to IN, because they are essentially, I would say, comparable to the IHSAA for athletics, and they manage, the bulk of esports in Indiana, from what I have seen, is run through IEN.
So
And it's, like I said, it's free. The only cost is that the kids have to cover their costs for their systems and their games. And a lot of schools have built gaming facilities with PCs and things like that, which we've I've got a place for them to play, but we don't provide systems. The kids have to have their own systems.
When you say systems, you mean like a PlayStation or
Yeah,
something like
PlayStation,
that? Okay.
Xbox, Switch. Those are the three primary platforms that they play on.
Okay. So those are kid parent provided.
Correct.
Okay. Now is that something where somebody could sponsor and, get that to the school or
They could. I actually have a PS4 that I got a couple years ago because I had a student that played Madden on PS2 and wanted to participate and didn't have the means. So I got one myself, which, my husband may or may not know about, um, that I just keep in a cabinet at school. But primarily, I like to have the kids bring them because then they are more responsible for it because it's their equipment. Plus, we don't have to store it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So what all games? You rattled off a few games. I'm not familiar with all the games.
We currently I say only, currently we are running Fortnite, and that's at the middle school level, and then Super Smash Brothers, which is a 1v1 battle fighting game on the Nintendo Switch platform. Those are the only two that we are currently running right now. They have chess, they have Tetris. Those are single player, what they call I can't even remember the category now. Like Fortnite, where they compete weekly and then they run a tally sheet as far as keeping score and totaling how they come up with their winners. They have Overwatch, they have Valorant. Those are group games where they have to have 5-man teams, I believe. They do have racing, which I've had a few students express interest in that. The problem is, to be successful at that, you've really got to have a rig, and those are expensive, and those are kind of a pain to haul around too. The racing games are essentially what NASCAR and IndyCar drivers do in their off season
Okay.
now.
So
So
it's the seat, the steering wheel.
it's yep. I
Okay.
mean, you can go as simply as the steering wheel and the pedals, but most of them, the kids that are very good at, they've got rigs,
Okay.
which is essentially a pseudo roll cage, is what it is, with the seat and everything built into it.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So how long have you been the coordinator of this?
I believe this is our 4th year of running esports at
Wow.
Blackford.
Have you seen in
So,
that 4 years what types of changes have you seen?
our numbers have increased. The very first year, I'm trying to think of what the game was. There was another game that entity offered that we participated in. It was one of the team games, and we weren't good. They had fun playing, but they weren't good. But getting everybody there every week was a problem. So, but our Smash numbers have grown in the way IEN runs it. There is a varsity level. They have an academy, which is the JV. Then they have club, and you have one varsity, one JV, and you can have unlimited clubs. Currently, we have our varsity JV, and we only have one club team. But our numbers have gone up by 5 or 6 each year. And in addition, like I said, we added our Fortnite. We ran 4 Fortnite middle school last year, and again this spring. And I've already had several that have talked to me about it for next season, because the Fortnite only runs second semester for junior high, and junior high kids are notorious for not paying attention to announcements and things, so they tend to miss call outs when it comes out. But it looks like our numbers will be the same or increasing next year as well.
Awesome. Number of schools that are participating, are you seeing some growth there?
Yeah, the numbers have gone up exponentially. I'm thinking last season we had maybe 8 or 10 in the single A class that we compete in for Smash, and this year there's, I think, 16. And that's single A alone. They run a single A, double A, and triple A based on your enrollment, just like the athletic tiers
Gotcha.
do.
Okay. So it was probably 2021 when I first saw, like an esports gaming
Right.
room, and it was
It's still fairly new, yeah.
yeah, and it was down at Salem Middle School. So I was part of an Anali group, and the principal down there and I were in the same new principals leadership group, and they had gotten a grant to get some equipment and to basically remodel a room to create an
Right,
esports environment.
right.
And theirs was a mixed use. It wasn't specifically for just esports, but the esports was the big push
Big area,
to
yeah.
get for it. What types of grants are out there for educators to get this rolling?
At this point, I haven't looked a lot into those simply because we have a very good sponsor base at Blackford, and we use those to cover both our robotics program and our esports program. Um, at a certain point, we may look at going out and seeing what we can find. And honestly, the only reason I would do that would probably be to get PCs, because gaming
Mm,
PCs are extremely expensive. But as
yeah.
far as everything else, we've been very blessed, like I said, with a really good sponsor base. And, we have 10 station setups that have 24-inch TV monitors with
Wow.
HDMI and things like that.
So your setup is it's basically combined with the robotics.
Well, no, no, it's in the same room, but the funding comes from the same account. I've
Okay.
lumped it under a tech team's umbrella,
Gotcha.
and it covers robotics, it covers esports. In the event we get drone racing, that'll get thrown in there too. But like I said, our sponsors have been very generous and enabled us to have it's a multi-use, because it is in my computer lab in my room, but have a dedicated esports area, so they
Gotcha.
have a place to play.
So do you see a lot of the same kids that are taking your computers class? Are they also participating in the esports as well?
There are I'd say, I'm trying to think, out of my varsity and my JV, what do I have? My 10 varsity and JV, I'd say 5 of them are in the computer science pathway, yes.
Okay.
So it is kind of an eclectic mix. It's interesting to see who is out there.
Sorry, I was making it. Now I can hear me. So
Hey,
I'm
turn
like,
that volume up.
I
Yeah.
did. I was like, why can I not hear myself? And it drives me crazy. I could hear myself outside of my headphones, and I'm like, is this thing not plugged in? Do I have the volume down? I look up. My eyesight's not getting any better. I'll just be honest.
Technology's great when it
Oh
works.
man. Well, it's great when my eyesight works because I look up and I can see, oh, it's turned down. Why did I have it turned down? I have no idea. But yeah, now I can hear. Holy crap. I was wondering what happened to my
It's
voice.
like you've been healed.
Thank you, Jesus. So great. Now let's talk about the competition component of it. Do you travel? Do you stay in place? Because in my head, I'm like, okay, this can go both ways. If I'm an esports person, I don't have to travel, but
Correct.
if I'm an esports person, I want to go out and compete.
I want to
I
try. Yeah.
also want to go and do something different, and so
Right.
is it a combination? Is it
It's we do a combination. The IEN, Indiana Esports events, those are all in place where we are playing in house, and we're playing other schools that are in house. Occasionally, we do have kids that play from home, depending on weather or if they have logistical issues. My Smash teams play in house through IEM, but we also do attend tournaments where we load up the little white clown car bus and we head out. We've gone to Manchester 2 years ago. University Smash is huge. They're one of the top Smash teams probably in the eastern half of the United States.
at Manchester?
Um, at Manchester
That's
University, yeah,
incredible.
and they host a high school tournament every fall in November. This year, I think it ran around 250 students.
Wow.
Um, we had top 7 finisher who was signed a scholarship to go to Manchester and play next year, and we also had, I think, another top 25 finisher. Then into January, Anderson High School hosted for the first time, and I think that was a 92-person tournament. And so again, we loaded the little white clown car bus and went down to Anderson for the day and competed down there.
So when you have 92 kids competing, how does what's that look like? Do they have
It's
I know Anderson does have a dedicated esports place. Uh,
so what they do is they set up stations is what they call them, where they've got a couple of monitors. Sometimes they're back to back, sometimes they're sitting next to each other, and they've got a switch set up where they could smash. This is all for Smash Brothers. That's played on a Nintendo Switch, so they have a switch plugged in. People bring their own controllers, and hook those up, and they have, I think Anderson ran 12 stations maybe, and they run a morning bracket and an afternoon bracket. And they have a software now that creates schedules just like they do
Yeah.
for athletic entities. And you're assigned to a pool and you follow your bracket, and you just have to be on site when it's your turn. And they have like a pit area, usually it's a cafeteria or where you can stash your stuff. And they have separate areas set up where you can set up your own switch set up and play friendlies with other people and things like that. So
I was talking with a colleague, and one of the interesting things is, um, people outside of education see this, and their first thought is this can never be successful because it doesn't make money. It'll never be successful because it's not, you don't have 1,000 people pouring in and spending $6 a ticket to come watch it. um, it'll never be successful because, and the list continues. And as somebody who, like you, has been in the classroom, has been with kids, and understands participation is going to go through the roof as we continue to grow
it
it.
absolutely is.
um, I often wonder, where where does this go from here? Because clearly participation, you said, is exponentially up, and you have, now you have a sanctioning body. It looks like people are pouring into. I think IEN has around 80 school districts that they are servicing, and it may be more than that now. It's been a while since I've looked at those numbers. Um, where does it go from here? How does it
I know
continue to support
to grow.
itself? Yeah.
Well, I know. I mean, when you take a look at kind of factors that weigh in on the success of esports, number one, video games have been around for
Yeah, we go from
45,
Pong to
45 plus years, starting to date myself a little bit. And it goes back to your mom saying, get off your game, get outside. You can't make a living, go exercise, go
right.
do this, go do that, which has evolved to you can make a living doing it. And during COVID, when everything was shut down, this is one entity that could thrive because of how it operates logistically, because you don't have to have a large gathering of people in place. And with streaming now through Twitch, anybody can watch anything. And I know if you just do a survey of kids, I'll narrow it to males ages 9 to, well, in my house it's 26, that like to sit and watch people just sit and play games on YouTube. They're not doing anything, they're just watching somebody play a game. They are getting sponsor deals. They're creating tournaments where they're winning thousands, if not occasionally $1 million prizes and things for these tournaments, because people can enter from all over the world virtually and compete with each other. And they're casting it. People will pay for stream rights to watch and to subscribe and things like that. So the money is out there, the money is flowing. Colleges are offering scholarships in all capacities to esports, not just playing them, but learning how to manage it, learning how to run a program, learning how to run tournaments. Because when you have a tournament, a lot of times people are paying to enter these tournaments. I know there's a entity up in Fort Wayne that runs, called Claim to Crown, that I know a lot of my guys have gone to several of those, and it's only maybe a $10 or $15 entry fee, but they will run 20 to 30 to 50 entrants, sometimes more. So they're making money. They've got a pot that you can win, and it's just basically mimicking athletics in its growth as far as numbers. And the e-racing, like I said, that's what your NASCAR, your IndyCar drivers, that's what they're doing in their off season, is they're doing this. And people pay good money to watch NASCAR drivers play esports.
Right. Uh, it kind of blew me away the first time I had I had heard someone watching someone else play
Play,
games
yeah.
online. I was like, "What are you talking about?" Then just put it into perspective. How many times have I watched replays of
Of
sports highlights, or how many times have I sit and watched a game? You know,
right,
and for I think for us it's generational, where it's like, well,
right.
you're not sitting on the bleachers, your butt's not getting sore, so You must not be watching something real, but this is very real. There is a lot of
Well,
strategy going on
it's
here. There's
it's akin to watching a baseball or football game on TV. You're doing the
100%.
same thing, only you're doing it in the area that you like. You're entertained as opposed to what someone else does.
And I think that's the component that there it is. That's the aha moment for me, was that people will continue to watch it even
Hmm.
after it's over. They'll go back and watch someone who had already gamed, go watch their YouTube
Right,
channel or whatever. And that's something that we couldn't do that. We couldn't go watch someone play Miss Pac-Man
right,
and figure
right.
out how to get away from,
You just
you know,
you just heard about it. It was legendary in the
yeah.
halls and in the malls.
Yeah, now you can go back and watch. You can watch them live. And there's another component of this that I wanted to ask you about. How much how much of the streaming are you seeing, live streaming at the high school level? Are you seeing that yet?
Yeah, we are a little bit like, I know IEN in their rules now they have modified to have a 3-minute delay. I'm guessing because of issues they've had in the
Sure.
past with, you know, I would say violations during some of the games. But yeah, I mean, one of my number one, he's my senior that's signed to go to Manchester. He brings a laptop setup and he doesn't stream. He records and posts VODs of on his channel after the fact, which a lot of them do that. I have, we have a Blackford Twitch and I've got a capture card and all that. But with how my setup is now, we don't live stream. But like I said, since, he records VODs of them, we get those all posted. And what I'm guessing will probably happen once he graduates is I will go ahead and make the stream or make the setup happen and we'll continue to post VODs, at least of our varsity matches.
Do you have someone who, because I know there's voiceovers that go along with it as well, like
Um,
announcers, color
they,
play.
yeah, a couple of my guys like do that. They'll sit and watch, and when they're not playing, they will commentate the games. Absolutely, it's just like I said. It really truly is a parallel entity to athletics now.
Gotcha. So if my kid, if my high schooler, middle schooler wants to get involved in this, how as a parent do I support that? Because it feels very different, right?
Right, right,
I know what it
um,
looks like as a parent to sit and watch your kid play
right.
video
Yeah,
games and not
get
pick up
off,
the
get off,
room.
and get out some exercise. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, it's to me again, as a parent also it's a catch-22 because when my boys were growing up, in elementary and middle school, especially elementary, they were not allowed any time on their playstations during the week. They only got an hour on Saturday, an hour on Sunday. In the summer it was very limited because I wanted them being not athletic, being active and
Hmm.
doing something besides sitting in front of the TV playing video games. Whereas now, um, the one of the big things about esports is it's hitting a niche group of kids that wouldn't normally have had an offering to them, an extracurricular offering necessarily. And while mine were at baseball practice or football practice, they're sitting in front of the TV and playing video games on the headset with their friends and things. That is their practice. And it's reaching out and making sure schools are offering programs. More and more schools are creating programs and offering them as a legit ECA programs for students, where they have to follow the extracurricular rules, they have to attend the practices, they have to have the grades. They have a dedicated coach that is getting a stipend to make sure it's covered and things are happening, and it's becoming more and more recognized as an official entity. And as a parent, I would say, they have to, if their child is going to participate, they need to support this just like they would band or choir or football or drama or any other, activity. And I did have one a few years ago who her son was, one of my esports kids. And when he got in trouble, the first thing she did was take that away. Well, you can't be an active participant in something like that and get it taken away. That just doesn't work. So it's a new, I guess, system of thought
Hmm.
because it is so new, and this is the first generation of kids, that has had this So, the parents have never been exposed to it. We all, had that. It's something just to play with, like it's akin to a toy mindset. And that has to shift if, students are going to be successful in it, because it does take the same type of work dedication that any other activity does in order to gain success.
I think of it as shooting free throws. It's
Right.
it's a perishable skill where if you're not playing, if you're not shooting those free
If you're not
throws,
doing it right.
you're gonna get rusty. And I'm air quoting,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
do you see that same thing with gaming? I'm not a gamer,
Um,
so
well, it's kind of funny. I got a Switch for Christmas last year and started playing Smash just so I was a little more familiar with it. And I got what I would call decent. I mean, air quote, decent enough. And then I didn't play for 4 or 5 months. And when I got back on, it was just bad. It was horrible. So yeah, I mean, it's something you have to keep doing. And I know, like, several of mine a couple weeks ago went down to a major. No, sorry, it was up. I think it was in Auburn, a pretty major tournament. Like, there were top players from the country that came in from Missouri and Pennsylvania and all over. And one of my guys got matched up with the top, I think it was the top player or maybe the number 2 player in the country in the character he played. And he was excited because he knew he was going to get beat fast, but he was also going to be able to sit there and pick this guy's brain
mm,
and
mhm.
get coaching from him too,
Hmm,
to keep his skills
interesting.
up and to improve.
Really interesting. Are you seeing more when I look around and I hear folks talk about it? I'm hearing more about esports at the small college level, but that's not the end of it. I know Ball State has an
Yeah,
esports
no,
team, and
yeah,
gosh, there's a guy in there that's making a living
yeah,
um, playing esports. There may be more than one, but I know
right,
talking with the coordinators over there, they've got at least one that has major sponsorships, has to continue playing,
right.
in order to keep that money flowing in. But he's making a decent living as a college
Absolutely.
student
As a college
playing
kid, yeah.
playing esports, and I think for us to wrap our head around that is is difficult at some level, but at another, the more you look at it, the more you open your mind to it, the more opportunity you see. There, you're unlimited. You're not locked
Right,
into Friday night um, at either one Friday night game
right,
at either Blackford or going to
right,
Alexander, wherever.
right.
You're not locked into that. You have opportunity to play anywhere at any time and
It's,
have
yes,
people
you
view
can.
you all over the world. And
Correct.
I've kind of seen that with my podcast where I've got 11 different countries, people listening to me in Tanzania. Come, for real?
Yeah, it's
I
like
mean,
you
how's
woke
that
up in the middle
happen?
of the night and couldn't sleep and decided to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and video games are global. I mean, they really are, and it's a very common language, even if you don't speak it, to communicate through, kind of like music, through the video game. You can interact with anyone.
So through these skills, do you see a translation to other, more, because I believe there is a career. There is. It's not. I believe. I'm
Right.
witness. People have a career with this. I don't know how long those careers last. I would imagine as long as you're willing to continue to play the game and get better at it, or transition to a new game that comes in. But to transition to a more traditional, mom and dad thinking about their kid
Right.
type of job or type career, what have you seen that translate to? What are the colleges going, hey, come here, play esports, and this is a great, either career path or, field of study?
Well, when you look at the skill sets that you gain from esports, obviously, depending on what game you are participating in, you've got your traditional, teamwork and communication and things like that. But you've also got, a lot of fine motor skills. You've got a lot of problem solving and troubleshooting and very quick on the fly decision making. And when you look at industry that uses that type, it can range from working, as an urban forester where you have a truck that uses a a joystick to swing an arm out and pick things up and put them in your truck to, being a surgeon that's running a robot performing robotic surgery. And when you look at these skill sets that these kids are getting, unintentionally, they do translate to a lot of careers that we currently have that use that fine detail hand-eye coordination through robotics and computers and things like that, to careers that really don't even exist yet. Because when you look at, they talk about looking at this generation, and 30 years from now, half the careers that they'll have don't even exist. And the drone industry is a perfect example of that.
Wow. Yeah.
Being able to fly drones, and more, they're taking over a lot of unsafe and uninhabitable places with drones to get footage and things like that. And they are programming them, which is another entity, but especially military drones, they are still having to hard fly them. And this is that video game kid 15 years ago that sat in his room in the dark 24/7, who's now got a headset on, flying a drone into a combat area to land some precisely guided munitions. So it is
or to
a skill
deliver
set that,
deliver an Amazon
or
package.
deliver Amazon package. Yeah, absolutely. No, I do have a friend who has had a double major, and one of his majors wasn't droned for that purpose.
Wow.
Yeah, the skill set is, like I said, it's applicable in a lot of areas today. But I think looking to the future, a lot of the careers haven't even been created yet, invented. And these kids are the ones that are going to do that with the skill sets they have.
I was just talking to my wife about, the possibility that, we have robotic surgery. So Jennifer's an RN and works in endoscopy. She sees robotics already happening.
Right.
Not a lot in what she does, but there is someone there that's actually operating the machine, or the device, and then someone
the Da
else
Vinci,
that's
the Da Vinci's, yes.
and then someone else who is watching to
Right.
to view it. And there's multiple people involved there in specialty areas. But I was thinking about remote surgery. If you've got a robot in place and someone from, you've got that specialist
You've got a special, right?
somewhere else, that's their job, is to, and you're talking about those fine motor skills to
Right.
precisely go in and use something with a robot from a remote location. And
Right.
from what I'm gathering, we're not far from that being a regular.
They have done it. They've started to, I don't want to say experimenting, but they have started doing it, and they've had success in doing it. And the catch is just having, I think, people that, depending on what they need, are willing to undergo that. But there are several there are several scholarly articles and research, and that, because it has started happening. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know how crazy I am about the idea of it, but on the other hand,
well, I mean, if this is your only option,
right,
and you can't get to Germany,
let's go. Let's go.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
See, I think for many of us, boy, I'm thinking about my dad. My dad was a pretty open-minded guy. But for him to be able to wrap his head around the idea
Right.
that video games were going to be a career path, I think it'd be
Right. Oh,
difficult.
yeah.
He did understand the importance of a computer, and he understood the importance that, we invested back in the day. We had a Tandy TL1000,
Okay. Yeah.
and that was our first computer. And, you had the Leisure Suit Larry game, and, some others.
Yeah, we had that on our Commodore 64.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yes.
How far have we come from the
Right.
the Oregon Trail, where you die of dysentery every time you play, to where we are now, and the realism that is happening.
Right.
Is there NIL money in this? Do you see that
Probably.
as a possibility?
I would. Yeah. I mean, people will pay for anything, and through that, I absolutely think yes, it'll get to that point.
In my head, that was one of the first thoughts that came to me, was that if I'm that guy,
Yeah.
I'm getting paid to
Can I make
promote
money? Yeah.
that game that
Absolutely.
I'm in the middle of a Twitch and all these other, demand video
Right.
on demand. That's where that money is. It's just through
Right.
sponsorships, through, advertising, through promotion of a product. Um, and then what becomes for the majority of these kids that are doing this now, and adults. I mean, it's not just kids. There's
No,
adults
right.
that are just going after it too. Yeah, I remember my sister was crazy about Super Mario Brothers. She was hooked on that game.
Right. 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 It's a
Anytime you
matter of
call her,
taking
you
that
could
addiction and monetizing it.
you could hear it in the background every time he called. Bling,
Ding,
bling.
ding, ding.
What are you doing? Nothing. Bling, bling. Oh, ah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for your kids, how do you continue to promote? I mean, does it promote itself within smaller
It does.
school,
This,
obviously?
well,
But
video gaming, honestly, is one of the few industries that really needs no marketing.
hmm,
It really doesn't, because kids play games, kids go to school, kids talk,
hmm,
more kids play games. I mean, it really, and if you think about it, there are very few TV ads for gaming.
yeah. Uh,
Usually the ones you'll see, Call of Duty ads, you'll see
hmm,
the athletic games are the ones that I notice the most, and that's more, they're promoting the game through who was on the cover.
mm-hmm.
Honestly, Rainbow Six, when it first came out, there were a few ads for that, but you don't see relative to industry. I think if you would, this would be an interesting study, if you would do an analysis of the media ads for the industry compared to the number of people engaged in it. I think gaming has probably the lowest number,
Hmm.
because it just self-propagates itself.
You would think that would be the case with, you know, prescription medication too. Anyway,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. Those AARP ads.
oh my, oh yeah, right. Oh my gosh, I've been getting that stuff in the mail for the past 5 years. I'm like, come on, man, I just turned 50. Give me a
Just
break.
suck it
I'm
up
not
and
there yet.
join and
That's
enjoy the discounts.
Is there a junior AARP? That's what I want to know, because
There you go.
I'm not qualified yet. Um,
See, they need to start marketing, the Atari games and Nintendo games through AARP, and take us back to when we
oh
were
man,
young.
kaboom, let's go. So if I'm a school and I'm like, hey, I'm hearing a lot about this. My kids are talking about it. We don't have an esports
Right.
gaming club or
Anything.
team,
Right.
or we haven't we got this old computer lab sitting around. How do we get started? What is step one?
I would reach out to an existing program and talk to them about, how they got started. Send out feelers to, kids. Hey, if we did this, what would you be interested in doing? Keeping in mind that depending on the entity that you choose to run through, may cost you money, may not. And regardless of what that entity is, they all have, a limited number of games that are available. Now, in the big picture, there's hundreds of games that are competing in esports across the whole spectrum. But like I said, I think IEN, we run maybe 10 total when you would, look, just because it can't become unmanageable, and for their end administratively, and both, for the school to have 20 kids doing 20 different things at a
Hmm.
time, it's just not a manageable concept. But it would be a matter of, like I say, reaching out, I think, to an existing program and say, hey, what do we need to do to get started? How do we do this, both logistically, as far as personnel goes, as far as, money, what do we need to support this? And I think the number one thing that needs to happen if a school wants to make this happen is they've got to find somebody that's willing to lead it and give the time, because like athletics, it is after school.
Mm-hmm.
My nights when I did have a chess a kid doing chess last semester, and he was the only one on that night. And the way the chess runs is they play 5 games a night. They don't start until 5 o'clock because we're running Central and Eastern time in the state of Indiana, and they can't start their next game until everybody's done with their first game. So there were nights when we didn't get done until 7 o'clock. And again, it's paramount to athletics. My smash nights are Wednesday nights, and my kids, they come to my room right after school, so I've got them in there the whole time, and then they just sit and play each other. They play people online because our network does open up right after school, so they can set up matches and things. But the official matches don't start until 5 o'clock unless we've scheduled them to go at another time. And so there were nights, when we didn't get done until 6 to 6:30. So you have to have somebody that's willing to put in that time. And you also have to have administration that are willing to let you set up the network that you need to run it.
That was my next question.
It's what we've done, because most schools, I won't say most, I'll say all schools now, because they are required by law, have very heavily filtered networks to keep kids safe and to keep them from making the poor decisions, online that they like to make. And so the issue comes up because 99.9% of all gaming is, considered mature, considered adult. So it's going to be blocked without question. And what we ended up doing is they set up a separate Wi-Fi for my esports program that opens up at 3, it closes at 7. And it is wide open. And because of that, they do have quite a hefty agreement packet they have to sign, as far as, they won't do this, they won't do, you name it, they're not going to do it. Otherwise, number one, they're done with me. Number two, then they will have to deal with, school consequences for misusing the school network. And, to this point, knocking on wood, I haven't had any issues with our network. But like I said, it is only open for a limited time, and it's only used by us. So that has helped.
I would think as highly engaging as games are, you would think that most of these kids, if not all, coming in are going to be
right. And that's why I tell them, I said, if you screw this up, we're all done. So don't.
Yeah.
And the same as, like, we use Discord, which is basically a chat site. We use Discord for the esports network for IEN communication, but also I use it for my robotics and for my esports, because I can, hashtag and create different channels for different entities, so I can communicate directly with kids, because they don't check their email, but they will check their Discord. The same thing. Hey, yes, Discord's not school, but we are using it for a school purpose. So if you can't handle it, you won't be a party to it. It's, that simple. And they do still have Discord blocked on our network at school for the kids. So if they access it, it has to be on their own personal device. And, as everybody knows, Blackford is a black hole for cell phone signals. So, it's few and far between.
So true.
Few and far between that they have access to
Stick
things
your
like
arm
that
out a window
during the school day. Pretty much, you've got your rabbit ears with your tin foil. Yeah. So it's kind of a balancing act, because we have to have the freedom to do it, but at the same time, I don't want to say kids will be kids. I want, as opposed to kids will make stupid decisions, and that stupid decision can affect a lot of people.
You mentioned robotics a couple times, and I know that you had started a robotics program at Blackford while I was still there working. How well did that lend itself to blending these two together? Are they?
Oh, a lot of my esports kids are also on my robotics teams, and they will do Wednesday night robot practices, so they can come work on their bot from 3 to 4:30, and then switch gears at 4:30 and hop onto, the esports. But the robots are controlled with remote controllers that are basically the same as an Xbox or PlayStation controller. So they blend themselves almost seamlessly to each other.
Every time I walk into a robotics room, all I can think about are the people who go in and get bombs and
Uh-huh.
using the robots to go get
Yep.
bombs, and
Yep.
how
That's a really,
critical
yes.
that job is. But now you've got, you live in Muncie, and sorry, nobody go toilet paper her trees or anything just because I called out Muncie on her. But
I've had it happen once in 30 years. See,
but
that's dedication when
yeah,
they're willing to drive that far to
that
come
is,
toilet paper you.
man.
Yeah.
You're taking pictures. You're like, that's pretty good, kid.
Uh-huh.
But you see the robots all over Ball State campus,
Yeah. They're
and
doing the food delivery like Purdue is now. Yes.
yeah. So I found out
Yes.
through Jason Reynolds, who was a guest on the show a while back, that is all ran through the culinary department, and it is actively, that is done through Ball State's students and work. The kids that are working there,
Right.
they are the ones
Right.
operating all those. So
Right. Once
once
again, it's a
again,
skill set. They took a skill
it's
set and
incredible.
robots and food, they have nothing to do with each other
They
except,
do
oh, wait,
now.
they do. Yeah. They
Yeah.
took that skill set and they applied it. And that's one of the things that I, preach to my kids, not just in the esports and the robotics, but in my classes, is say, these skill sets that you're picking up doing the things that you're doing for me, you're not going to be a computer programmer. I understand that. But when you're a mechanic and you have your own garage,
Hmm.
do you want to pay somebody $500 a month to maintain your web page, or do you want to be able to do it yourself?
Bingo.
It's a skill set, a transferable skill set.
Bingo. I think I think some folks are concerned that esports replace the physical IHSAA sanctioned sports at some point. I personally don't
I
see
don't,
that.
I don't see that
I don't
happening
see that
either.
happening. And you're an athlete and a coach, and same here. I I see some kids
Um,
that are crossing over, but I don't see it as a replacement.
as a rule, the esports is reaching a group of kids that would not have ever had anything to compete in.
Hmm.
Now, having said that, I've got let's see, looking at I have two varsity swimmers. I've got a varsity runner,
Hmm.
and actually one of my best smash players that I can't get to join my team is a three-sport varsity athlete, but he
Ah,
just doesn't have time, and
yeah.
boy, we're working on him because he's really good. But yeah, I mean, I am seeing some crossover. I've got some drama kids, some theater kids, and again, I've got that group that doesn't do anything but this, and now all of a sudden they have an avenue to participate
Hmm.
and compete.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank God for that. I think that this opportunity, for the kids who just aren't social, like in
Right.
a big way.
Right.
It's
Right.
interesting to see how they go from someone who struggles to communicate to someone who's very good at communicating in a different environment.
Right. Well, and
Especially
one of
with,
the other things that's starting to grow, and we do not have it yet because I don't have time, is they are starting to roll out unified esports as well.
oh wow, that's awesome.
So,
That's really
yeah,
interesting. Uh,
yeah.
wow. So what's next? What's next for Blackford Esports? Is there a
I mean,
season? That's something
currently, yeah, we run what they call a fall split and a spring split. It's 6 week fall season, 6 week spring season, and then for the varsity teams, there's a postseason. Our club teams compete weekly, and it's just that it's a club. My JV finished 10-0-2, so they were at the top, maybe in a tie overall for their,
nice.
the JV single A. My varsity finished undefeated, and we're the number one seed in single A. So we are now in our postseason. They had a first round bye, and our next match is April 10th, and hopefully they can keep their consistency up and keep winning and get us to
Right.
the state championships at Ball State on April 27th.
Man,
That's
that's
that's the
exciting.
goal.
Now, is that
Well,
something where
then,
people can come and watch?
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Then we also last season is the first season I've run middle school, and we had a Fortnite has build and no build. We had a Fortnite no build state champion in our middle school team last year, and they haven't officially announced this year, but it looks like based on score sheets, we will have a Fortnite build state champion again this year at Blackford, and we will have the overall state runner up. So
Wow.
we've got some good Fortnite guys in the running
Who are some of
coming.
the schools? Do you have a rival? Have you developed a rival through
Um,
this?
varsity. Um, Wabash seemed to have our number last year. That's who knocked us out. And we got them this year. And then it'll probably come down to trying to think of what the bracket looks like. I don't remember if they're in our half or not. As far as that goes, I know my number one has a really good relationship with a lot of them because he goes and plays all tournaments all over and one-on-one. And I know Mooresville, which is a AAA, they're probably the number 2 team in the state right now at AAA, right behind Carmel. I know he has had this love-hate relationship with Mooresville because their number 1 kept knocking him off. And I mean, he would lose, it's best of 3, and he would lose 2-1 to him. I don't want to say on a regular basis, but quite a bit. But when we went to Anderson, one of Mooresville's other kids knocked their number 1 off, and then Darius lost to him and then came back and won and ended up winning the Anderson tournament over the kid from Mooresville. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, what to say, Wabash is probably our closest, and we had them come. I think they're the ones that came down for a friendly one week. They came to Blackford to play in-house. And so, but as far as just overall rivals, not yet. This is our 3rd year, maybe in IEN, 2nd or 3rd. And a lot of the teams that were towards the top last year are not this year because as they graduate players, they have to build up. And when we came into IEN last year, the first season, which is our fall split, we had to play club by regulation. And in spring, we jumped into varsity and we ran our varsity undefeated. But because we didn't play fall, we were kind of right in the middle of the seeding mix. So, but yeah, I could say, I think, Wabash, and I could say he's got Mooresville, there's a few, and it's more about individual rivalries than it is team rivalries. Just because these guys play tournaments on their own and run into each other.
Yeah. Is there a team element to it?
Oh, absolutely. The Smash Brothers play what they call a crew battle, where you have four players versus 4 players, and it's a 1v1. The first players go, and basically it's a last man standing. So when somebody dies, the next guy up, and they just keep going until last man standing wins.
Is there strategy sessions that go along with this?
I sit and watch and let them do it, but no, they, I just say Darius Osborne, he's our captain. He's our number 1, a senior, and he does a very good job of coaching players while they're playing, both to get each other and while they're in matches, saying, hey, do this. Hey, you need to grab here. Hey, you need to get up on this ledge, or you need to, And, certain categories of players have certain move sets, and, they have heavyweights that have armor, and they have others that are fast. And basically it's a matter of knowing what move set your opponent has and how to competitively take advantage of weaknesses. And that comes in kind of like, scouting in football or
that's
basketball.
Exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is
well, and I know he, when we went to Anderson, he spent all his time working, practicing against that one specific player, because the other thing is players have one guy that they will usually play and they get very good at. Then they'll maybe have 1 or 2 secondaries that they can fall back on if they need to. And, he had spent all this time because he knew who it was. He knew what he played. He knew what he does. It's just a matter of, and then this guy got knocked off and he had to, pull an audible, if you will, and kind of shuffle his mindset. And, in the first match up against him, it did not go well, and he got his behind handed to him. And then he made some adjustments and came back down, from the loser's bracket and won the tournament and knocked this guy out.
I'm just imagining, as a competitor in me, it's like, oh yes, he's out. But then at the same time, you're like, oh man, I've been prepping for this guy the whole time. But now what?
And it's funny because I grew up in the 80s and 90s basketball era where my high school gym held like 8,900 people, and obviously there's not this many people, but the atmosphere is 100% identical
That's
where you've
interesting.
got, the 20 or 30 that are left at the tournament because everybody else leaves, when they're done, just gather around these monitors watching these guys play, and girls too. I mean, it's not just
Yeah.
a male sport. It is,
Oh yeah.
and just going nuts when things happen, and there's wins and there's losses and
Uh, that's where I had originally heard about like people watching esports was through my girls who 26 and 23
uh
that Addison was talking about watching someone game, and I'm like, that was so bizarre to me.
right.
Just because number one, it was just out
It's
of my comfort zone, I
You don't sit
guess.
and watch people play video games. That's stupid.
But then if you
That's
just
unheard
take
of.
video and replace it with any other game,
It
just
makes
replace the
sense.
word
Yeah.
video, and all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
huh,
yeah.
yeah. And I think
It's
we
the
get
same
hung up
thing.
on the word, don't we? We're
Yeah.
just getting hung up on the word video game,
And
and
yeah,
it's
and
Pac-Man to us,
absolutely.
and this is clearly
Right.
not Pac-Man.
And funny you say that because the guy that's won Manchester the last 2 years plays Pac-Man as his main character.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, and I don't sit and watch them. I don't, but I will pull occasional VOD clips up, especially of Darius's matches, and just to watch the things that he does to people.
Wow.
Because his main character is Duck Hunt, which is really funny because he's got the dog, he's got the duck, they throw the can of beans. I mean,
That's so good.
it's so funny to watch what he does to people.
That does fit his personality really well.
It absolutely does.
So, final thought here. What, and I've already asked the question, what does someone do? But if they had questions, could they reach out to you?
Absolutely.
How
Yeah,
can they
anything to grow the sport. My email is jgallatin, Gallatin at blackfordschools.org. Um, they can, get on the Blackford page. I'm on Facebook as BJSHS Ed Tech because my original one got taken down because people suck. Um, well, somebody hacked my private page and then it
Oh
got
man.
banned. It got banned, and then everything I had off of that I couldn't get to. I can see
Right.
it, but it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So, and honestly, if you just Google Blackford esports, Blackford robotics, it should get you to us
Okay.
as an entity.
Man, that's great stuff. I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing, and this is something I've been wanting to talk to you about for quite a while. You know, I'm in a different realm, being in the furniture side of education
Right.
now, but I'm seeing this growth happen, and it's a wave. Uh,
Well, and people are setting up, schools are recognizing this and, setting up esports venues. So this is what it's going to lend itself to,
man,
you guys as far as setups, and I told one of the things that I'm going to eventually move to, and I've talked to you a little bit about this, are the gaming chairs for my facility, with the caveat, yeah, you're not getting wheels.
right?
There's no way I'm putting you people on wheels.
Yeah, we can put
But
we'll put glides on them. No problem at all with that. Well, we were talking to the guys at Ball State in their esports lab, and one of the things they talked about was don't go crazy with your chairs because the gaming chairs they have are super uncomfortable.
well, and what I ended up getting actually is I found their classroom chairs because I looked and looked and looked because we have, in my lab, I still have the 1973
Yeah.
yellow steel four-legged with the little feet. That's what my computer stations have. And I
Gosh.
found, they were desk chairs, and when I look for something like that, first thing I do is I look for reviews and see what people are saying about them, because yeah, you don't want something that's going to be uncomfortable if they're going to sit there for 3 or 4 hours and play
Right.
video games on it. But at the same time, if you watch them play 9.9 times out of 10, they're sitting up on the front 2 inches of the chair anyway. So, it's a
Yep.
matter of, do they really need it or not? But, with what we've looked into getting, it would be a matter of getting one or two, putting them up, letting them try them out and see, hey, do you like this? Is this something you would be, comfortable sitting in? Because the Smash kids rotate in and out. The Fortnite kids are parked there,
Right.
so it might be kind of a
I'll bring
mixed
some
blend of.
chairs. I'll bring you a few
Are
out.
you gonna sponsor? You sponsor me,
I'll bring
and
you a
I will
few out.
I'll slap your name on all of our banners and everything,
I'll
and
bring a few out, and you can test
on
them
the
out and
back
see
of
what
our
you think.
shirts and everything. Yeah, we'll put
I
you. Hey,
love it.
I'll even put you on our jerseys,
Hey,
our
one
esports
one
jerseys.
lab I was going to ask you about. I don't know, with it being small school, have you been over to Rossville?
I have not because that's a drive.
Yeah, it is a drive. It
But
really
yeah, that's
is.
over by Lafayette, correct?
Yep, it's in between
Yeah,
Kokomo and Lafayette. They
yeah.
have. It looks like what they have done is taken a choir room and
Okay. Oh,
converted it. And this
with the
thing is,
tiers.
yes.
Oh,
Oh
I
my
can imagine
gosh,
that.
it's
Yeah.
so cool. And the desks they have that pretty close to that same arc as
Uh huh.
as the risers would.
Right.
But it's one of the nicer
That's
ones that
cool.
I've seen. It's
Yeah.
it's not a room that we have done, but it's something we can do, and we
Right.
are planning to do. We are setting up an esports lab at Union City High School,
Okay.
and so we're partnering with them, and they've gone out to South Carolina and looked at one of the bigger.
Right.
Somebody's gone bananas on one, and then we're bringing that back to Union City. So that's something. It's
Nice.
very close to you. Anytime once we get that set up, I'll more than happy to take
Yeah.
you over there so you can see it. But and anybody else that's listening wants to see what this looks like,
Right.
I'm happy to take them over there. Uh, I think what you've done is pretty incredible because you've bare bones this thing and you guys are killing
Right.
it. So
Yeah.
you've
I mean,
made it.
it's, obviously the facility matters, but again, because we're not actively recruiting, because that's not the nature of the beast, offering kids some place to play is more, counts more than anything.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, keep doing what you're doing, and man, these kids are definitely benefiting from it. And Darius is certainly one of them that is seeing the fruits of his labor, come
Absolutely.
together. I'm excited to see what he does next. I'm really excited to see where that goes for him.
Right.
That's what I think is going to answer a lot of questions. Is once we see a student who has that opportunity, within our world, um,
Right.
and then goes out, goes to school.
Well, and I don't know, at least as of right now, that he's interested in doing anything esports related once he gets out, ironically. He
Interesting.
just loves to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I would think it would lead to something though, you know? I
Yeah.
We have a colleague whose son went to Trine, who was flying drones, and he was
Uh
part of
huh.
Trine's drone team.
Right.
Last I knew, um, the rumor was that he was doing something with Amazon with drones,
Right.
and that's really interesting to me because it's just something that you and I didn't see growing
Right.
up, going to school, and it wasn't a career path that we
That
went,
didn't
oh yeah,
exist. I mean,
I'm
we
gonna play
had
video
RC
games.
helicopters that lasted a day and then broke.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The drone industry is huge. That's one of the things I teach in my 8th grade STEAM classes. They do a drone unit, and I've got little ones that they program.
yeah, man, that's so
So,
cool. And realtors are using them.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Farmers are using them. It's a big part of ag now.
Yeah.
Just think about if you're a farmer and you want to know what's going on out in the middle of your field.
I
Well,
mean, theoretically, with GPS mapping and robotics technology, you don't have to man farm equipment anymore.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you don't.
Oh
Between
man,
drone technology, GPS, and robotics, you don't have to man farm equipment anymore.
Tony Quillen was telling me that he could not even come close to doing what his
Right.
automated combine did.
Right.
It's just not even
They're just
possible.
you're just kind of along for the ride now, just
Yeah,
to sit in peace and quiet and watch,
it's
shows on your phone.
truly incredible how we go from someone telling us, "Hey, buddy, quit using your calculator because you'll never have a
You'll
calculator."
never have a calculator on you. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. Between you never,
You know,
get off the video games to go outside to you're not going to have a calculator on you all the time.
that was said to it. That I
Absolutely.
would love to know who that
Oh, I
person
heard it.
was.
Yeah, I mean, I
That
heard it.
that
Everybody
took
heard
that
it.
and went, "I'm gonna show him or her. I'm gonna show them." And they created the smartphone.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
Well,
I mean, these smartphones have more computing power
uh,
than the moon rockets did. So,
dude, exactly.
yeah,
We got more computing power in our hand than Ronald Reagan did.
yeah,
It's just insane. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I know it's scary to some people. It's not to
right.
me. I embrace it. I realize there are dangers that come along with it. There are things, but when it comes to esports, I think the thing that gives me the most comfort is knowing there is someone there monitoring what is going on, um, allowing them a safe place to go play,
Right.
and not having to worry about, because there's a lot of creepy people in
Oh yeah.
this world and on the internet, and
Absolutely.
that are catfishing and whatever. But these
Hmm.
kids now have a safe place to go play these games, and I'm
Right.
excited about that. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for taking some time
Thank
with
you
me.
very much for having me.
I can't wait to push this out, and man, good luck with your spring league. It's
Thank you very
exciting.
much.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Uh-huh.
See
Have
you,
a good
Jen.
one. Bye.